Hello everyone, my name is Manjunath. I'm a faculty at Insights IAS. I teach polity and governance parts of GS and public administration optional. Intention of this video is to make you know the details of our newly launched program, that is intensive bridge course for GS2 mains. Fine. We'll be discussing about 6 major aspects of this program. Fine. Yeah. So first one is, what is the importance of GS2, especially from the mains part. So we all know that GS2 consists of, you can divide it into 4 major sections. One is polity and governance, polity and constitution section. Second one is the social justice or social welfare part. Third one is the governance part, and fourth one is international relations. Fine. And if we consider right from 2013 to 2020 mains, so on an average there are around 110 to 115 marks allocated for polity and constitution part. Around 80 to 100 marks or 80 to 90 marks you can say for social justice and governance combined, and 50 marks is fixed for international relations part. So what is the importance? We all know that the same what you call as the parts related governance or social justice, in fact for that matter constitution parts also, same parts can be used even in GS4. If you look at the GS4 syllabus of ethics, second half of GS4 is also more or less similar to this aspects of GS2. So it will help you there also. And most importantly, what happens with respect to GS2 is that, on an average, if you have seen, the marks will be in 90s. Somewhere, of course, every year the marks might differ based on the, the way UPSC allocates marks, but on an average it will be in 90s. Unfortunately, even serious aspirants, might score sometimes in 80s. Maybe so many mistakes might be there that we'll discuss it. So if you score in 80s, like let's say you got 84, 85, somewhere in those 80s, the 10-15 marks difference below the average, so that will be, that will cost you a lot in terms of rankings in the list to come in the top of the list. And if you have written mains, you will be knowing that, compensating the 10 to 15 marks which you have scored less in GS2 in other GS will be a very difficult part. Fine, because that advantage will be very less. So that is another major part which you have to remember with respect to GS2. Fine. Considering those aspects, fine, let's look at what are the challenges or mistakes in GS2 approach. Normally, if you have seen, normally what is the challenges in GS2, like let's say for example, you're giving your first attempt, or like let's say you're giving your first mains. You would have studied, obviously, if you're cleared prelims, it's an assumption, basic assumption that obviously you would have studied Lakshmikant multiple times, at least 4 times you would have studied. You'll be knowing the basics of all the constitution or polity parts. Or you might have studied or referred a material for social justice or governance part also, or for that matter IR also. However, the challenge is that maybe you might not have one fixed consolidated notes. If you don't have that consolidated notes which is prepared according to the subtopics in the syllabus, it will be very difficult for you to revise before mains. And if you don't revise, then obviously reproducing that in the exam will be a very difficult challenge. So that is one normal challenge or a mistake which normally candidates will commit. Second one is that nature of GS2 itself is that, especially social justice and governance part, questions are sometimes vague or what you call as abstract in nature. So handling those parts will be a relatively a huge challenge for a lot of candidates. Fine. Or else sometimes we tend to write very general answers without substantiation. For example, every paper, like let's say even if you take GS1 or 2 or 3 or 4, every paper will have their own way of representing. That is, you have to use that kind of a language. If the moment the evaluator looks at GS2 answers, he should feel that okay, fine, you have the hold on the subject. You should use terminologies like let's say doctrine of parliamentary sovereignty, or like let's say cooperative federalism, or like let's say federal supremacy, quasi-federalism, or principle of subsidiarity, democratic decentralization. So like that, so many terms will be there. That language we are talking about, that language will make a huge impact. So that language might be a challenge. Or sometimes substantiation part, that is, you might be knowing in general because you have studied Lakshmikant, or probably you might have prepared a note, but you might not be using those articles. For example, if like let's say if the question is on parliamentary democracy, like let's say principle of collective responsibility, terminology, article 75, so that you have to respond. Or what did NCRWC, National Commission for Review of Working of Constitution, had to say about parliamentary system? Should we have to retain it, or should we shift to president, those aspects? Or similarly, like let's say for example, committees or commission recommendation. For example, if there is a question on federalism, 100% the evaluator will expect you to either refer like Sarkaria Commission recommendation or Punchi Commission or at least SR Bommai if there is a question on Article 356, that you have to be very smart. You have to use it either like let's say in the way forward or in the conclusion or sometimes as a general observation also. Or in other ways what you have to use is, even there you have to be smart. You can't bat all the recommendations of Sarkaria or Punchi Commission, because remember, exam is handling exam itself is a different challenge. You will neither have the space neither nor the time to implement or write all the recommendations. You have to be cautious about those small aspects also. Fine, all those will be normal challenges. Or sometimes another challenge is that, like let's say especially again for social justice or governance part, there is no one specific source available. Like let's say constitution or polity, everybody is fixed, you will study from Lakshmikant. Even some people make notes from Lakshmikant also, so that for mains, like let's say you can't write each and everything was there in Lakshmikant. Maybe you can note down the important points and then use that in your mains. That will also be helpful. Maybe there might be introduction, like the moment if there is a question on federalism, you have to write a definition of federalism. The moment there is a question on local self bodies, you have to write a definition on that. So something like that. So those are all small aspects which you have to always focus on. I mean in all the GS subjects, GS papers, but obviously in GS2 also that is a challenge. So those challenge also you have to keep that in mind. Fine. A third is about is this the right time to prepare for GS2 mains? We all will be knowing that UPSC has postponed the exam because of COVID related issue. We all know, it will be in October now. Even if you take from now, we will have entire July, August as well as September, which is there before you may have to prepare for your prelims. So obviously at least like let's say till July mid or July end, you have to focus on mains. Reason for, like let's say for example, let's say you're giving your first attempt, or you're giving, like let's say you gave last year but then you didn't clear, or you cleared but you knew that you are not well prepared for mains. Whatever is the reason, make the best use of this particular time, especially like the month of July for mains preparation. Why is that? Reason, like let's say if your like let's say mains related notes is ready, anyhow probably you can easily assume that you would have given entire March or April until UPSC postponed the prelims examination for prelims preparation. Obviously it's more than obvious, any serious candidates will give you would have prepared for prelims in March and April. Fine, of course you will give entire August as well as September and obviously around maybe like let's say 60-70 days again for prelims preparation. So what you are left out is the rest 10 days of June and the entire July month. So you have to dedicate this month for your mains preparation, so that what happens after you clear your prelims, all you have to do is revise whatever the consolidated materials that you have, which is prepared based on each and every subtopic of the given syllabus. Fine, and then write test, get it evaluated, understand what is the approach, maybe where can you come up with those small changes so that you can increase your marks if you are in 90s to 100s or if you are in 100s to 110s. So that is what you have to be doing in in that 3 months gap that you have between prelims and mains. There if you feel I'll again start preparing, I'll start making the notes after prelims, that will be a huge challenge. If you have given mains, you will understand how much how crucial that time will be. You can't prepare newly. You have to focus on that preparation now. Fine. Yeah, so in this context, so that's why we have launched a new program, this intensive bridge course. So what are we trying to do? How are we trying to approach GS2, especially from mains perspective in this program? So what are the features of this program? So first point, as I have already told by now, we will be approaching in this course, towards GS2 from each and every subtopic perspective. If you have looked at GS2 syllabus, there are 19 subtopics in GS2. Even if you again divide it, like let's say you can say it as like let's say around 9 to 10 subtopics allocated to polity and constitution, around 4 subtopics for social justice part, around 2 subtopics for governance, and around 4 subtopics for international relations. So we will be approaching from each and every subtopics. All the 19 subtopics will be covering, that is the first most important feature of this program. Okay, fair enough. So then how will our approach be? So based on previous analysis of right from 2013, the new syllabus to 2020, what we have identified is that on an average, like let's say as I told, 100 to 110 marks will be for polity and constitution parts, 80 to 90 will be for social justice and governance, and 50 for international relations. Even within that, even if you have done your analysis of the previous question, you would have identified there are some particular areas where UPSC regularly keeps asking questions from. For example, like let's say take local bodies. every year more or less they have asked a question on local body, either a 10 marker or a 15 marker. And even the kind of questions they ask on local bodies is also more or less fixed. That doesn't mean the same question they'll ask. Of course, you can't expect in such a competitive exam, but the dimension might change. That's it. For example, like let's say most of the questions on local bodies is around, what are the reasons for, like let's say, ineffective performance of local bodies. Even though reservations for women is given, 33% reservation for women, unfortunately that has not transformed into real women empowerment. That is one way they are referring to that Pati Panchayat phenomena. Or they ask about, even though constitutional status for panchayats is given, they might ask specific part about local bodies do not have that kind of financial self-sufficiency. What are the reasons for that? So somewhere on, even for federalism, if you look at it, or you can make it as center-state relations or everything, the kind of questions that they are asking is one or other way surrounding about, like let's say, center and state relations, cooperative federalism, dominance of, that is quasi-federalism, that is in a way, tilt of the Indian federalism towards union government. That is where they are asking a question on. More or less you can go and analyze. Even like let's say, if you look at the first subtopic of GS2, that is historical underpinnings or evolution of the constitution, or like let's say significant features, all those things, more or less there the question is either they ask on fundamental rights, maybe a Supreme Court judgment related to, like let's say in 2017 they asked a question on right to privacy, because at that year we had this Justice K.S. Puttaswamy case wherein the Supreme Court declared right to privacy as an integral part of Article 21. Similarly, like let's say 1 year they have asked a question on right to clean environment as a part of Article 21. Or sometimes they ask a question on DPSP, because that year UCC Uniform Civil Code was in huge news, Article 44. So that is, they will surround around those questions. I am not saying the same questions will repeat. Of course, you can't expect that, but around you can, if you go and analyze, you will find out 13 to 15 questions will be from the same kind of areas I am talking about. Even if you look at international relations for that matter, like let's say India and neighborhood relations, if you take, more or less they are focused either on India, China, or India, Pakistan. Once they have asked about India, Bangladesh, another time about India, Sri Lanka, and one question on India, Maldives. Similarly, if you look at bodies, like you have a subtopic of important international organizations or institutions, their structure and mandate, more or less the question will be on one or other way related to either UN. Like let's say 2020 they have asked about WHO, because obviously we all know COVID was under huge discussion and WHO was criticized, all those things. Or they ask about WTO mostly. Of course, sometimes very vague or abstract question like about, like let's say McBride Commission or UN ECOSOC, all those things, but mostly it is around United Nations or World Bank or IMF or WTO. Mostly, I am not saying the same will be asked, fine. So there you need to focus more on, like let's say how you prepare for prelims, exactly the same approach. So that is where we will be focusing. In the 3-stage approach, first we will focus on conceptual clarity. You might have studied from prelims perspective, but maybe from the mains perspective, maybe how can you come up with a good definition, maybe a kind of conclusion. Can you make use of some kind of a flow chart or a, like let's say, tabular column, which articles are important. That is first conceptual clarity perspective in the 3-stage approach. Second, we will discuss previous year questions, fine. Maybe we'll discuss about the structure of how we could have handled it. And we will also discuss in the real time, because telling it in general is a completely different challenge, and writing the answers in the UPSC, that exam hall, in those 3 hours is a completely different challenge. So that will be focusing on previous year questions. Then the third feature is, as I've already told, whatever the major features are there, major dimensions where they are asking questions, we have identified some, like let's say in the past 1.5 to 2 years, what are the major areas of discussion. So probable questions, we will discuss that. Same questions might not repeat of course, but in those areas we will be focusing. That is the 3 stages we will be focusing, fine. And then obviously we will focus on the enrichment part, that is like let's say what you call it as value addition, substantiation. So that is articles, commissions, committee recommendations, any flowchart, any introduction, terminologies, that we will be focusing on in the next, that is another feature. And fourth feature of our program is, how will you handle those abstract questions? As I told, like let's say all of a sudden they'll ask you a question on, like let's say what is the relationship between hunger and poverty? That's a very vague question, everybody knows, but how will you structure it? Or even like let's say syllabus is so huge that you can't prepare each and everything. That is practically not possible. That's also not a practical approach also. But still you should be able to at least get, like let's say if it's a 10 marker, you should be able to get around at least 4.5 or at least 3.5, 4 marks. So that what happens, it is practical approach that around 4 to 5 questions every year will be a kind of abstract questions, but still you should manage in such a way that we should get on an average marks. So that what happens in the rest 14 or 15, 16 questions where you have good hold on the questions, there you have to get that extra marks. Like let's say for a 10 marker you should aim for 5.5, 6. If it's a 15 marker, maybe 7, 7.5. So that what happens as a whole, your score might be in 110, 115, 120. So that also will be tackling. Maybe we can come up with better dimensions in the answer itself. Maybe we can come up with, like let's say, broad way of answering. Maybe like the way you answer, like let's say structure. Maybe if it is abstract question, you can write it in a small paragraph. If you have more points, then you can come up with a point wise format. So that aspects from the real time, how will you have to approach, that will be discussing. So those are the features of the program, and of course some materials will also be provided, that I will answer in the frequently asked question, the last point. Now if you ask, sir, who can make the best use of this course, that is who can join this course? My suggestion is anybody who has completed their basics. Maybe you have taken a foundation course, OGP course in Insights itself, or you might have taken course in any other institute for that matter. You might have studied Lakshmikant, but then you might not have studied from the mains perspective, fine. Or else you might have given 1 or 2 mains, maybe you might have scored in 80s, maybe you might have scored in 90s, or else you realized after giving mains that I don't have that one consolidated notes, and somehow I don't have that hold on GS2, maybe because of my background, maybe my graduation was different, whatever it is, whatever issues. So I would suggest this program will obviously, we are honestly trying to give that value addition for you, fine. Anybody who has completed their basics can join this program. If you are very good at GS2 in the last mains, if you have scored 110, 105, of course you are very good at it. What you have to do is write answers, practice more, revise more, fine. And we have got several queries with respect to the course of the program, all those things. So that's why I would like to clarify a few points. First, some students have asked about when will the course be, from when, that is the timings. So course will be from July 1st to July 10th. Every day 6 hours will be conducting the program, and that is totally around 60 hours. Fine. That is how we have structured the program. So that and some questions are about, do we teach the basics? As I have already told, so only if you have completed the basics, you will be able to make the best use of the program, because you can't teach entire GS2 right from scratch, because that will take so much of time. If you have done your basics, yes, you are eligible to join for this program, and we will not be dealing for entire basics, but we will talk about how to make use of the better introduction, better structuring, better way of substantiation, that will be focusing on, fine. And then some students are asking about what kind of materials will be provided. As we have already told in the features of the program also, 2 materials will be provided. That is, first one is about like let's say substantiation part, like better examples like social audit, where Meghalaya has come up with a law, or like let's say Andhra Pradesh has a model for that, or like let's say sometimes best practices also, sometimes like let's say policy perspective, or committee and commissions, terminologies, as I told, keywords, the way you have to use, that part will be focusing. Even in that, for some topics, for example, especially social justice and governance part, in fact some topics of international relations also, we don't have specific material. So for that we will be providing material. That means we will be providing in detail, right from introduction to body, all those things will be covered, fine. And then another material which will be focusing as I told, probable questions. Somewhere around we are planning 80 to 100 probable questions based on 1 to 1.5, 2 years analysis of the major editorials and Yojana or Kurukshetra or from PRS website. We are collecting, we are making questions on that, and that also will be provided. Model answers will be provided for those around 80 to 100 probable questions, fine. So that is another one. And so that is the overall features of this particular program. Finally, if you ask what is the purpose of this program, our purpose or the intention of this program is to make sure that whoever joins this course, they prepare their whatever the foundation related to GS2 mains now itself, so that all you have to do after prelims is revise that whatever material you have, revise that probable questions, and any kind of new whatever examples that you want or whatever new things that come up, and then write more, practice more, revise more. So that is the overall intention of this program. so that you can score 120 plus, you can aim for that. You will have all the chances for that, so that you can find your place in the top list. So that is the overall intention of our program. Thank you.